Most people have no idea where their money's going, but this 3-number budget formula fixes that. The 50-30-20 budget will simplify your money management. I'm going to show you how to make your budget using the 50-30-20 formula in this video. And I'm going to break down some pros and cons. Quick thank to WalletHub for sponsoring this video. While the 50-30-20 method works regardless of how you budget, I'm using their app to show you how this method works because they have a tool specifically designed for this kind of budgeting. Let's get into it. All right, here's a breakdown of the 50-30-20 budgeting method. 50% are needs. These are like your basic survival and legally required expenses. Some examples could be rent or mortgage, electricity, water, gas, groceries, not dining out, those kinds of things. Next is 30% of your budget is for wants. This is like your lifestyle spending, which is optional and flexible. Some examples are eating out, travel, shopping, hobbies, that kind of thing. And the last 20% of your budget is for savings and debt repayment. Some examples could be your emergency fund, retirement savings, other investing, extra payments towards debt, and sinking funds for large upcoming expenses. All right, now that we have the basics, let's set up our 50-30-20 budget using WalletHub. Go ahead and click the link in the description to download the app so you can follow along. First, after you sign up, every time you open the app, you'll want to tap this button at the bottom called My Hub. That'll take you to your login. After you're logged in, tap Spending at the bottom, which is where you can start your budget. Let's tap on Start Your Budget. Now, you can either sync your bank account with your app if you have WalletHub Premium, or if you don't like to sync your bank accounts with an app, you can actually add transactions manually. I'm going to sync personally because it's faster and more convenient. After I sync, it'll show me a breakdown of my spending in the dashboard at the top. What we're going to do is hop over to budget here at the top, and next thing we'll do is change our budget type. So to the right of the current month, you're going to see these 3 dots. Tap on that and then change budget type. Now we're going to go down and tap on the 50-30-20 budget. Now it's going to fill in the categories based on the transactions that you import. That means you'll probably have to change some category numbers. That's okay. WalletHub does the initial legwork. At the top, you can see this month's summary. None of this information right here is able to be edited, but as you scroll down, you'll see different categories have dashed underlines. This indicates the amounts that you can modify. So under income, you can see the dashed lines under budget. Let's stick with $5,000 for our take-home pay for this example. But if you wanted to change that, all you'd have to do is tap on this and then change the number. Then under each of those 3 categories, it'll have a target amount based on your income. For $5,000 of income, that means that your needs, or as WalletHub calls it, must-have expenses, it puts in the target amount of $2,500, which is 50% of your income. The wants category, or nice-to-have expenses, is targeted for $1,500, or 30% of your income. Then the savings and debt repayment category, or savings goals, is set to $1,000. Now it appears that under must-have expenses, it's only put 1 transaction, so we'll fix that. Obviously we have other must-have expenses, so we'll go into our transactions and we can change those easily. Now just because each category has a target budget amount doesn't mean that you have to stick to that amount. For now though, let's stick with our target amount and we can come back and change this later if we need to. The one thing we do need to update right now though is our savings budget. We've got our target $2,500 in must-have expenses, our target $1,500 in nice-to-have expenses, and we have $1,000 left. Let's split it up across a couple savings goals. Let's assume for a moment you have a fully funded emergency fund already. That's goal number 1 in my opinion. But if you already have one, then you're good to go for some other savings goals. I recommend saving 15% of your income for retirement. So that's going to be $750 in this example. We'll tap on Set It Up under Retirement. Let's tap Save a Certain Amount. Our savings goal amount per month is going to be $750. Let's say we've saved 0, and then we'll set up a virtual account to put it in. This isn't a real account, it's just to track your savings for it. We'll create this account manually. Just scroll down to Create New Account. We'll do Roth IRA, Create Account. We do have to go back and actually choose that. Now we'll tap Update Goal. If we go to the top, it shows that we have $250 remaining to budget. So let's go back down to Savings Goals, and we'll create one for a new to us used car. Add goal. Buy a vehicle. Let's call the goal Vroom. Let's set aside $250 per month. $0 so far saved, and then we'll choose one of our accounts to save it into. And we'll tap Save. Perfect. Now every month, WalletHub will also save back $250 for our car. This will basically act as a sinking fund for our vehicle. Then when we purchase one, we'll essentially transfer money from our vehicle goal into our income in order to offset that large expense. No worries, I'll show you how this works later. Next step is we're going to go into our transactions to review them. The biggest thing we need to pay attention to is how WalletHub categorizes transactions as must-haves, or nice-to-haves. And we can change the ones that aren't right. Then it'll be easier to track down how we're doing with the 50-30-20 method. We're going to tap transactions at the top. As you review your transactions, it's easy to tell if WalletHub has categorized a transaction as a must-have or a nice-to-have. On the right side of each transaction, there's a filled-in arrow that points either up or down. Arrow up is a must-have, arrow down is a nice-to-have. As I'm looking through these, I see many of them are correct. TikTok Shop is nice-to-have. Restaurants is nice-to-have. This one right here called Bright Wheel is actually a must-have because it's for childcare. So all we need to do is tap on that transaction, tap on must-have, and then tap save. And since this is a recurring transaction, it's going to ask me if I want to apply this to all other transactions that are similar to this, which is a yes. So we'll hit apply. Now to remember that next time this transaction comes in, WalletHub will categorize it as a must-have. Now if we go back to the budget and scroll down, it'll show that our must-haves have gone up in terms of actual spending here on the right side. And our nice-to-haves have gone down in actual spending because we moved that bright wheel over to a must-have expense. Now we just need to go back to transactions and recategorize transactions that haven't been categorized properly. The good news is when you change a transaction over to a need, even if it isn't a consistently recurring transaction like a bill, it'll ask you if you want to apply this to other transactions from the same merchant. So when I tap on this Target purchase and change it to must-have, since it was for groceries, it'll ask if I want my other transactions from Target to go into must-have. For Target, I'm going to say do not apply because sometimes the transactions are just shopping. But for other transactions like Kroger, that's almost always must-haves because it's almost always groceries. So I'm going to say apply for that. It just makes it easier on future transactions to review. I'd recommend going back a couple months as you review transactions so you don't miss anything, especially any recurring transactions like bills, because most of those you may have to change the must-haves. So for this one, this actually is for our mortgage. So I'm going to tap on category, change it to mortgage, and change the priority to must-have. Now we tap on save, and we'll apply. Now, when you're going through your transactions, you may notice that there are some that come up as transfers. And that's fine because WalletHub disregards the transfers when it comes to your actual expenses. Except for some reason, this transfer on September 4th shows up as a credit card payment. So we're actually going to tap on the category, tap on transfer between accounts, transfer this to our Discover account, and tap save. We only want this to affect the one transaction, so we'll say do not apply. Now that transaction won't show up as a random debt payment in our must-haves, giving a false perception of how much we've spent this month. All right, I've reviewed all my transactions. Let's jump back over to the budget tab. And we'll look at our must-haves versus our nice-to-haves. Okay, if we go down, look at our must-haves, we are under budget in terms of our actual spending. That's great. However, what's not great is that we're barely under and we have more than half the month to go. If we tap on this section, it shows that we have $115 remaining this month. Yikes. This is a good indication that we need to change something about our budget. Maybe how much we earn. Or maybe that we're qualifying some expenses as must-haves when they actually should be nice-to-haves. If we go back and scroll down to our nice-to-haves, things are looking pretty good. We've spent a little under a third of our nice-to-have category. Now I'd recommend going back to your transactions and checking every once in a while to make sure everything's getting categorized properly. It doesn't have to be a deep dive, just to check up to make sure that expenses that are coming in are getting sent to the right place. After month one, it'll get way easier because WalletHub will actually remember how you've designated certain merchants. All right, what happens when we buy something that we've been saving for? Remember that vehicle fund called Vroom? Let's say we finally buy a car and we've got $15,000 saved up. And we conveniently bought it for $15,000 using a check. Now when our check clears, we'll have a $15,000 transaction which will hit our budget. We'll just create one manually right now. Now we have this huge expense that just came in. The way that WalletHub handles this kind of expense is pretty simple. When we go to our budget, it looks like our nice-to-have expenses is way overspent. To handle this, we're going to go down to our goals, tap on Vroom. Now for this example, I changed this goal to show that we've already saved $15,000. Now all we have to do is tap spend from goal. Let's put in the amount of the vehicle, $15,000. It's already got the right account chosen. Now when I tap confirm, it's just gonna tell me that it's creating a virtual transaction. This essentially creates virtual income of $15,000 in our budget to then offset the expense in our transactions. Create virtual transfer. Now, when we go back up to look at the summary of our budget, it shows way more income coming in through our goals actual because of that large virtual transfer. Now, if we go down to the bottom where our savings goals are and tap on Vroom, it shows $0 saved because we just spent it all. Now, I like the savings goals. You can add goals for literally anything that you want. I like to create them for anything large that requires several months of savings, like for vacation, or even once a year we pay for all of our winter propane all at once. There you go. Now you know how to make a 50-30-20 budget. Now, this budgeting method is by no means perfect. It's great for starting out if you're trying to figure out budgeting, and it gives you a good feeling for how much money should be allocated to each category of your finances. But it's not going to be perfectly scalable for everyone. Some places have incredibly high cost of living, and some people live in these places with relatively low income. That makes some of these percentages real tough. It also might be tough for people with irregular income, because while your income may fluctuate, your bills don't. Last thing, I personally don't think this method is aggressive enough when it comes to debt payoff. It puts both savings and debt payoff in that 20% category. I personally think that you should push your debt payoff as much as possible to get yourself out from under that burden. Having said that, I do believe that 50-30-20 is a good method for getting started when it comes to a budget. There's a lot of nuance to money management. Everyone's situation is different, and that's okay. But if you're using this method, once you have been budgeting for a little bit, I would recommend you change those percentages so that it's a little bit more honed for your own situation. And you'll get a much better feel for where those should be once you get to that point. The biggest thing to remember is this method is a guideline. It is not a hard and fast rule. That means don't be too strict on yourself to have your budget fit these percentages perfectly. Just start budgeting and make changes from there. WalletHub's 50-30-20 budget tool will just help show you visually how close you are to that guideline, and can help direct you to change your spending and your savings to numbers that maybe make a little bit more sense. Now, there's a lot of other great tools within the WalletHub app, so go check it out by clicking the link below. You can budget for free on WalletHub, and if you want even more features, WalletHub Premium gives you access to full credit reports and credit monitoring if you're into that, and also extra budgeting tools to make managing your money even easier. All for just $3.99 per month for the first year. Now, subscribe if you want more content like this, and watch this video next.